Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. This is Pari. I'm here today with Mr. Steven Rendina, and he will be here today discussing with us about various ways we can take care of ourselves holistically. Welcome, Mr. Rendina. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes. So can you please elaborate with our viewers about your background and your specialty, please?
Yes, thank you. I have been working with my major work has been with addiction over the last 30 years, and I've had a lifelong interest in alternative approaches to that using holistic techniques, and became very interested in traditional Chinese medicine and classical Chinese medicine using principles of nature, naturopathic healing, and began to implement those techniques and principles into my work with clients who were struggling with addictions.
Mm-hmm.
And so the major focus is on what is called Qigong, which means is type of energy cultivation exercises.
Mm-hmm.
And the other is on Tuina, which is a form of Chinese medical massage to help to alleviate pain.
Okay.
And in 2010, I embarked on a course of study with Kenneth Cohen, who's a great master of Qigong and an amazing translator of traditional Chinese medicine into the English language. And with him, I completed a teacher training program. As part of that training, I had to write a thesis.
Mm-hmm.
And my thesis was basically on what's called fine-tuning your recovery. And it was about how we could apply these principles of Qigong and traditional Chinese medicine into the recovery process for addictions.
Okay.
And as part of that course of study and part of that thesis, I did some original research at the agency where I work, which is called the House of Hope in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
And what that study was having clients fill out a simple survey of using a scale for the universal pain scale, and then also using a survey with a scale that I made very similar to the universal pain scale that measured their subjective view of their own anxiety or stress level. So they would fill that survey out. We would do about 30 minutes of Qigong, either meditative or exercises and breathing techniques, different things like that. And then they would complete a second survey with the same identical questions.
Okay.
And over the course of about a year or so, I gathered nearly 300 of these surveys.
Okay. So, go on. Sorry.
Oh, and I was going to say that like other holistic techniques, what I saw was a very significant shift in people's perception of pain. The actual percentage in terms of scoring over the collected of all those surveys was a decrease in perceived pain by 36%.
Oh, wow.
And in perceived anxiety by 54%. So
halfway.
So I know this wasn't a controlled study, and there are limitations in what we could do, but I thought it was important to do that as a way of at least saying that this is worthy of doing further work with, and I've been able to continue that where I work at the House of Hope. So.
Wow, that's a significant amount of decrease in stress, and even 36% is a significant amount to see that change before and after the treatment. So that's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and just if you think about, well, there are three basic tunings that are consistent with the Qigong traditions.
Okay.
And the first of those is tuning the breath. So the breathing techniques, which help to relax, to invoke the relaxation response in the body, to reduce stress levels. Almost any type of breathing technique, I tell my clients all the time that you have the most readily available tool right at your disposal to deal with your mental stress, and that is your breath. And so by learning these breathing techniques, people can calm down fairly quickly.
Okay. So I'm understanding this in this breathing techniques and all that. What are some like basic guidelines on how you guide patients to do these breathing techniques in a typical appointment? Some basic principles and guidelines.
Yeah, I will do this largely in a group setting to
Okay.
teach the methods, but also individually. Like if I'm doing a massage session, then I will give individual guidance to clients that need to follow through on what we've been working on. So,
Okay.
but I was just going to say that in terms of the Qigong breathing techniques, most breathing, like yogic breathing techniques, most calming or relaxed breathing techniques, focus on abdominal breathing, breathing deep into the core of the body. In Chinese medicine, that core, which is called the dantian, or the field of elixir, the energy center in the right below the belly button, basically.
Okay.
And so breathing to try to bring the breath deep into the core of the body, relax, smooth out the breath, kind of get rid of any tension, and create a cycle of like a circular breathing, almost like the yin yang symbol is, whereas as the inhale reaches its apex, the exhale already, it's kind of a smooth transition between inhale and exhale that you try to work towards.
Okay.
One of the key differences, I would say, in the specifics of Qigong breathing versus, let's say, yogic breathing, is there is an emphasis on breathing not only into the belly,
Okay.
but into the lower back as well, and actually energizing and the kidney area, the kidneys and adrenal glands. So this is really particularly helpful for reducing stress,
Yes.
to kind of expand the breath also into the lower back. I think it's fairly unique. I haven't seen it much emphasis on that elsewhere other than in Qigong breathing.
Okay.
So that is a distinction about it.
It makes sense because the adrenal gland working on our stress, the cortisol and the steroids and the hormones. It makes sense how the Qigong and concentrating on the kidney and the adrenal gland area will help in reverse with the stress, decrease the stress level. So I was wondering, are there any contraindications, like anybody that you don't recommend doing this technique with, or when you take precautions with, like the young or the elderly or somebody who's pregnant or other age
Well,
groups?
in Qigong, and I've had a number of teachers, and all of the really good teachers that I've had, the ones I'd say are really excellent teachers, all recognize this one guideline, which is what's often referred to as the 70% rule.
Okay.
And that is that we're not going to do more than 70% of our maximum effort.
Okay.
Now, our culture in America is like we do everything to the max, to the extreme. It's like extreme everything, and
Yeah.
we try to push ourselves beyond the limits, and that's kind of the
True.
guidance of our typical culture.
Mm-hmm.
And Qigong is really looking at the kind of this longevity, taking your time to build very slowly and gradually the quality of your life. And so what the 70% rule does is say, I'm only going to do 70% of my maximum effort. But if I do that for a month, then that 70% is going to be a lot more, I'm going to be a lot stronger, I'm going to be a lot healthier and physically more able, as well as mentally, my discipline, my sense of balance, all those things will transform over time more gradually. So it's really an excellent approach to kind of avoid problems. So we're not going to push ourselves. If you're doing an exercise, let's say it involves twisting of the spine, and there's pain there. We also have this kind of in most exercises, so no pain, no gain. This kind of, we throw that one out too and say, if you're experiencing pain, you need to recognize and honor and respect that pain, and then modify that exercise so that you don't strain yourself in some way. So
that makes
so
sense.
there are a lot of safeguards in that in Qigong practice that that minimize contraindications for people.
Okay. So do you see mainly addiction clients that are battling addiction or needing help with that, or do you see people with different ailments as well in addition to addiction?
I see both, and I have taught in the public classes, and also do a small private practice with the Tuina massage.
Okay.
But the bulk of my work has been with my job, which is with working with addictions. So.
Okay. So would you have any recommendations for like healthcare professionals benefiting from this doing Qigong and doing these breathing exercises and reducing their work-related stress?
Yeah, work-related stress, work-related pain. I mean, when we look at Qigong, there are literally thousands of Qigong exercise systems.
Mm-hmm.
There have been documented over 7,000 of them in
Mm-hmm.
China, and this was documented about 20 years ago. But there's so many different opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
But if we kind of look at some of the fundamental principles, I would say that we're going to look at three primary tunings: tuning up the body,
Mm-hmm.
which a lot of that has to do with posture, how we carry ourselves. We want the weight of the muscles to be relaxed and hanging on the bones, so that you have less stress. If I don't know if you can see this. If this is my spinal cord, the standing postures, we sink the lower part and kind of let the upper part float. So
a little bit higher, and then I'll be able to see it. Perfect. Yes.
So if this was my vertebrae,
Mm-hmm.
my lower vertebrae are going to go down, my upper vertebrae are going to float up. That's going to relieve pressure in the spine.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to open up the nervous system, which is innervating all of the nerves of the body. So just the fundamentals of posture and the standing poses and how one carries oneself are really, really key to that. How we walk, our gait is part of that training also, certain ways of movement. So the body is critical. Then the breath is also fundamental in that deep breathing, which I mentioned, but smoothing out the breath so that we release tension, keeping the breath even in and out, and many other aspects of breathing. And then the third fundamental area of tuning of the body is the mind, or tuning the person is the mind. So so getting the mind and body in harmony through the breathing, through the posture, and then releasing the stressors that occupy our mind, so that we have a calm, relaxed attitude, and we're more aware and more focused. So there's a lot about, there's so much about mindfulness, and all those aspects. But I look at the tuning of the mind largely has two characteristics to it. One is what you could call mindfulness, so being able to be more aware, being more present, being more attentive to everything that's going on. And the other is an aspect of meditative practice, which you could also call mindlessness, which means emptying the mind and being free of thoughts and distractions and all of those things. So both of those are characterized in the training of the mind. This is something I personally found interesting when I took a workshop on the Kabbalah when I turned 40, which is the minimum age you're allowed to study the Kabbalah, which is Jewish mystical tradition. And there were two sounds that were emphasized in meditative practice. One was the sound of kind of the sound of a smooth wave, a hum, the sound, or om, that type of sound. So that sound, it's also the sound of deep satisfaction, right? When something that gives me deep pleasure, I say right? So the sound is really critically important. And the other is the the sound of what you could call white noise, the babbling brook, the birds chirping, all this kind of noise that creates a hushing sound. So it's the sh sound.
Mm-hmm.
So the sh and the sounds are really, in terms of the tuning of the mind practice, they can be very important using those kinds of sounds.
Mm-hmm.
So the sound or sound is what tunes the mind to be more attentive, because it's a focused kind of wave, and the sh sound is kind of white noise that blankets out everything. So it's the hush, the emptying of the mind. So my basic guidance in meditative practice is start with a shush sound to get the quieting down and
calm the mind and the soul.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask, how can people get more access, get more information, and how can they incorporate this into their daily lives? Like, learn more about this, and even contact you for more information.
Yeah, I do have a website, and that is finetunehealthcare.com. So that's all one word. So that's a way to get. My email is on that site, and how to get in touch with me directly. Right at this time, I don't have any classes scheduled. We're at a particularly unique time going on right now. So there's no public classes scheduled. Me, I am still working with the house, I hope. But if people want to get in touch with me and find out what's happening, go to my website and get to me through my email there. So that's.
I see. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing this. And everyone, I will be posting the website under the link and description below as well, so that we can find out more information, contact him, and learn more about how to do the different various ways. He talked about breathing and fine-tuning and holistic ways to help our health overall. Thank you very much, Mr. Stevens, for taking the time to do this interview with me today.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you very much. And everyone, don't forget to please subscribe, like, and share, especially with someone you might know that will benefit from this information and are struggling with stress or various ailments that can help by finding out about this information and help them with their health. Thank you.